As soon as I got to Naples, it was the strangest thing. I just felt a call of the Lord upon my life to preach the gospel to these people. And I just felt a real affinity with the people and a love for these people.
Welcome to Season 5 of the Echoes International podcast, The Same Commission.
I'm Jim Armstrong.
And I'm Matthew Pitts.
And together we explore all things mission with a guest each week.
So if you don't know much about cross-cultural mission,
or you've been a faithful supporter for years,
this is the podcast for you.
Hello, I'm Lesley de Blieck, Communications Manager at Echoes International, and it's great to have you watching or listening with us today as we meet with mission partner Alec Catchpole. Hi, Alec.
Hello.
It's great to have you with us on the Same Commission podcast today, Alec. Thanks for joining us.
Alec and his wife Patrizia have served in Italy since 1995, and we'll hear more of his and his family's story as we go along. As this season we focus on individual ways in which people have been called by the Lord to serve in mission.
So, Alec, as we've said, thank you for joining us. Let's take your story right from the start as we kick off our time together. Go right back to the beginning. So, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? You know, where you're from, and how your interest in mission kind of began? How the Lord started to kindle that?
Well, I was born and brought up in London, born in Fulham, brought up in North London in Southgate. And through no fault of anyone but myself, although I had every opportunity to really get on well in life, and I had a great job in the West End of London, through some bad choices of my own, my life spiraled out of control. And through drug abuse and getting involved in revolutionary politics, I lost my job, I lost my driver's license, and I was living in a squat. And then I had the opportunity to go and live in Dominica, the West Indian island of Dominica. And it was there that I met some Christians, some real Christians, people that believed in God and that preached the truth of God. And a friend of mine, he encouraged me to read the Bible. And as I read the Gospel of Matthew, and I saw Jesus as a real revolutionary, someone that revolutionized people's lives, someone that was against the authorities that abused their power, and how he lifted up the oppressed, I was really attracted to the sort of revolutionary Jesus and the impact that he had on people's lives. And then on a certain occasion, I had the opportunity to go to a gospel hall in Dominica, and there for the first time I met a missionary. It was a Canadian missionary, and at the end of the meeting, his opening phrase to me wasn't "Hello, I'd just like to meet you." It was, "Are you saved?" And his follow-up question was, "Are you going to hell?" So that was my first impact with mission. And honestly, I didn't get on too well with him because when I met him the second time, he was a Republican, and so that sort of, as a revolutionary, wasn't ideal for me. But then I met another missionary called Sally McEwen, and she was from Northern Ireland, and she put me in contact with a brother called John Frost in Tottenham. So when I came back to England, John Frost contacted me, and the first meeting that I went along to at the church called Brook Street Chapel in Tottenham was what's called the North London Missionary Prayer Meeting. So my first meeting in a Christian church in England was to go to a missionary prayer meeting as a new Christian. It was quite, it's quite an impact. It had quite an impact on me. And then as I was going home, a brother called Martin Baker, who was a missionary in Eastern Europe, he gave me a lift, or let's say halfway home. So right from the very start, I had quite a lot of contact with missionaries.
So can you remember anyone that particularly encouraged you along the way as you started off?
Yeah, I'd like to tell you about a fellow called John Frost. Now, John Frost is the exact opposite to me. He's a real Englishman, and he's got the right color tie for the right color shirt, and he speaks in really good English, which, for me, growing up, I would never have been attracted to someone like that. But the amazing thing is that God, like he puts our world upside down, and he put me in contact with John, and John took me under his wings and really helped me to grow as a Christian. And he really invested his life in me. It's amazing, and I really thank the Lord for John. And John helped me in so many ways. Introduced me to um, ways of how to read the Bible, how to interpret the Bible. And when he went out preaching, he would encourage me to come along. Maybe first we'll give my testimony, then give a 5-minute word, etc. And with such generosity and love, introduced me to all of his friends and contacts. You know, he could have easily said, I'm keeping my friends to myself, but he was so generous and kind as far as that was concerned. And I would go to his house and we'd spend time praying together, reading together. And he was doing a great mission work on Broadwater Farm in Tottenham, where they had the riots many years ago, and encouraged me to come along there. So I got involved with children's work, and I loved it. And we did various missions in London, in some of the roughest housing estates, and we had some of the best times you can imagine. And I had a real love for these children and to reach them with the gospel. We did so much mission work together and camps. So I really do thank God for John. But John had something else which was particular to him, that he had a real interest in mission. And this mission was, this interest, I should say, was given to him by another brother called Mr. Hitchcock. Now, Mr. Hitchcock was one of the conveners of the London missionary meetings. So he would often in the church talk about missionaries, and they would have missionaries coming to stay in their flat on furlough. So John was exposed to mission, and he took that on board. And then I was exposed to mission through John. And once a month, we had this, what was called the North London Missionary Prayer Meeting. And John was in contact with missionaries throughout the whole world. He would read their letters, and we would spend an afternoon praying for these missionaries. And every time we had a midweek missionary meeting, he would read a missionary letter. So we had ideas of what was going on in mission throughout the world, people in Africa, in Europe, in Asia. So I had like a full immersion in mission, and that's thanks to John Frost. I don't know if there are many other people like him in churches which are really doing what they can to promote mission and pray for mission in their own church. So if you're listening to this, John, thanks so much. I really do appreciate it.
Mm. Thanks, Alec. And I think you just before I ask the next question, I think you're picking up on a really crucial point in regards to cross-cultural mission that we're really keen to support and encourage with at Echoes, and that is those who stay well. The Lord calls folk into different ministries around the world, such as yourself. But I think you've given an example of someone who was missional, both in the way they lived their life, just interacting with others, but also someone who was keen to partner with those who had been sent to other places. And I think that's a really crucial thing that we need to see as a key component of a healthy church. That there are those there that are championing mission that is further afield, and I think that's something that there are a number of stories that we hear at Echoes where someone like that has come alongside a mission partner or somebody else who's been crucial in mission and actually encouraged them. So that's a really good point. So you kind of had good role models in terms of mission, particularly when you think of what you're doing now. How did the journey towards that start? What your particular ministry? How did the Lord call you into that?
Well, first of all, I need to say that I was working full time in Christian work in Tottenham. When I was 26, I felt a strong calling of the Lord to leave the business that I had and to serve the Lord in London, which is why I was able to get involved in all of these children's missions, children's camps, and not just children's camps, we did young people's camps. We were involved with things all over the UK as well, not just in Tottenham. In 1992, that I went to visit Naples, Now, I just need to say that before I became a Christian, I went to Naples, and I've got some relatives that live near Lake Como, and I was staying with them. And I wanted to travel around Italy on my own as a young person. I was probably about 20. And everyone would say to me, don't go to Naples. Every day, don't go to Naples. But I wanted to go and visit the island of Capri. So to go to Capri, you had to go through Naples. And everyone said, don't go there. They're going to rob you. But as soon as I got to Naples and I got on the bus, the people, they could see I was English because I had blonde hair and blue eyes. They were saying, it's not safe for you. Get out of it. I was like, where have I ended up? And when I was coming back from Capri on the bus, this like short Neapolitan with like unshaved beard started to put his hands in my pockets. I thought, to me, what is happening to me here? So I got to the station and I said, I'm never gonna set foot in this place again. In the meantime, I become a Christian, and I met a friend that by means really of Sally McEwen, this missionary, I got to know this fella who lived in Naples called Salvatore, and he come to visit me and stayed at my home on several occasions, and he invited me to come to his house in Naples. So as soon as I got to Naples, it was the strangest thing. I just felt a call of the Lord upon my life to preach the gospel to these people because there was idolatry everywhere. All of the cars and the pictures of their saints. People had saints, picture of their saints in their wallets. There were shrines in every house, in every apartment block, all over the place. I just can't believe the idolatry. I've never seen anything like it. And I just felt a real affinity with the people and a love for these people, which was absolutely strange, isn't it? When you consider, I just didn't want to go there in any way, shape, or form. And I just felt that calling upon my life, and I was just concerned that it just wouldn't be like a flash in the pan. So what I did, I decided to give myself 3 years just to pray if that was God's will or not. Because like leaving one country for another, you can't make a mistake. Because if you make a mistake, you really burn your bridges. So in those 3 years, I prayed about that. And then I contacted all of the missionaries from Brethren churches, from English-speaking countries. So the people from Canada, America, New Zealand, and Australia, and all of the British missionaries. And I wrote to them to find out about what work they were doing and how I could participate through prayer. And by means of that, I got in contact with Robert Hamilton. And Robert Hamilton was the one that I had more contact with. He was the one that really answered some people didn't even answer my letters. And Robert answered my letters, and he actually invited me over for a Glow mission in Naples. So I took up that offer and went there and just felt a real affinity with Robert as well. And that affinity grew. So it became clearer during the time who I should go and work with in Naples. And continued to correspond to go out there for other mission activities. In the meantime, I was learning Italian because I thought that'd be a good idea to learn Italian, and shared my burden with the church at Brook Street. But I'd just like to open up a parenthesis here. Now, as I said to you before, John had really invested his life in my life. And, maybe he saw me as his successor in some sort of ways. So when I shared with him this calling for Italy, while from one point of view, he was happy about that, about mission going on in another country. It was obviously a massive disappointment for him of losing a friend and a co-worker. And so I would say it underlines what mission costs, not just to the missionary that leaves his family and the church, but also the church that's left behind, because people that go out to mission shouldn't be the people that aren't doing anything. They should be active, important members of the church. So it did cost a lot to John, I must say. And, also for myself, leaving Brook Street, people I loved, the children, leaving the children, it just broke my heart. I can't tell you how many tears flowed from my eyes leaving those lovely kids. and then leaving my family and friends. And so that was just basically how I knew I should be going to serve the Lord in Naples, and who I should be going to work alongside.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Alec. Time for a break, and then we'll be right back.
Ready, set, go. Welcome to First Serve, a gap year like no other. Learn to serve, serve local, and serve global.
It's so exciting, and I would 100% recommend this programme to anyone.
On my first Serve Gap year, I'm most looking forward to experiencing other cultures and also speaking to other people about God.
This is First Serve. Find out more at first-serve.org.uk.
Hi everyone, you're listening to The Same Commission, where I'm here with our communications manager Lesley de Blieck and our guest today, mission partner Alec Catchpole.
So I think you've outlined a few of them already, but can you share some of the challenges that you faced as you began to serve when you first started in Italy?
Yeah, there were lots, lots and lots. Well, first of all, I went there with the idea of saying that I'm going to immerse myself in the culture and in the life of the church as a servant, rather than someone's going to start telling them what to do.
Yeah.
So one of the things was to submit myself to the way that they did church, which was very different to the way that we did church back in London. But I didn't see my role as telling them what to do, but rather submitting to what they did on a local level, which was I was happy enough to do that, as long as there weren't serious doctrinal issues, which there weren't. So that was one of the challenges of a new church culture. Then there's obviously the new local culture, the Neapolitan culture, because Naples doesn't consider itself really a part of Italy. they don't consider themselves Italians; they consider themselves Neapolitans. And when I went there, like 30 years ago now, like there were hardly any rules obeyed at all. On the roads, people parked where they wanted, when they wanted. One-way streets, you just go up and down as you wanted. And like all of the cars were damaged because of all the accidents that there were. It was a really lawless place. And that was a bit of a danger for me. Because you can imagine being a revolutionary and living in squats, and I was quite a lawless person before I became a Christian. So there was a danger of liking that sort of way, because probably as a person, I don't like rules very much. So that I enjoyed that part of the culture in some ways, although obviously not living the way that they did. But it's just interesting to see that. But one of the things that I did find hard was the lack of seriousness as far as institutions were concerned. Like the schools are a mess, and often the students occupy schools or teachers don't turn up, and you get treated like idiots by people in authority, and they really send you up the garden path if you want a doctor or if you want anything done. You go to them and you're disturbing them, like they're reading their newspaper in front of their desk. And if you want to ask a question of them, like someone that works in a council office, you're disturbing their reading time of the newspaper, and they let you know that. So that was really frustrating on a human level. Obviously, not being able to speak very well was really frustrating. That you go and ask for a loaf of bread and you feel like an idiot. You feel like a baby. And I found it quite embarrassing, really, not being. I know how to say, "Can you give me a loaf of bread?" But I was scared that they were going to answer me because I wouldn't be able to understand their answer. Because the trouble is as well, loads of these people would only know how to speak Neapolitan at that time, especially like the older folk. So it was a bit complicated. But I just took it. Well, this is my life, and I want to enjoy it rather than moan about it. I want to immerse myself in the culture rather than try and impose my own culture. So I would say those were some of the challenges that I faced at the start.
Mm. And I think just picking up there, Alec, one of the themes that's come out in a number of these podcasts has actually been the theme of language and language learning, and just the need for it, but the real hard challenge that it is. And I suppose the need for those of us in churches who are supporting particular mission partners to really be praying for those people as they learn languages, and for the
Mm.
for patience for them, and for resilience for them as they try as they try those things out. I know the feeling where you try a little bit of language and then somebody comes back with they assume you speak a lot more than you do, and then you realize you've got yourself into hot water because they've responded with something you don't know. I think that's a really crucial theme, just that I think we perhaps don't pray about enough with new mission partners. um, just thinking, going back to that question of encouragement again, you've spoken about John as sort of a mentor, um, in that early stage, and you've spoken about Robert as well. Was there anybody else that particularly encouraged you once you were sort of in Naples, or encouraging encounters that you had, things that kind of confirmed to you that the Lord had you in the right place, as it were?
Yeah. Well, let me just tell you about Robert Hamilton for a start. Now, again, you can just see how ironic the whole thing is, because being a socialist revolutionary, one of our main enemies was the police. And obviously, one of the worst police forces for us was like the Royal Ulster Constabulary, because of the IRA and the oppression of Protestants and whatever. From a socialist point of view, now I'm not speaking about a religious point of view. This is just as a socialist. And the Lord called me to work with someone from the Royal Ulster Constabulary who came into Mission Robert. It's just amazing, isn't it? The whole thing, how
Yeah.
what God does, He breaks down barriers.
Hmm.
Because I
Mm.
would have had stones in my hands, throwing them at Robert, and Robert would have been charging me with his drunkenness, and not being Christians, but in Christ, we would serve together and pray
Mm.
together and preach together and eat together. Isn't this great, the reconciliation that there
Yeah.
is in Christianity? Oh, well, that's just a parenthesis I thought I'd open up, but about the irony of things. Robert was a real encouragement to me, completely different to John, but again, really involved in mission. His life and his heart, his whole family were involved in mission. That was really great. And I tell you what, I stayed with Robert for 2 months in his house, and that really encouraged me, of just how important it is to have a family in mission. Like him and his wife
Mm.
Muriel were really united in mission, and their kids were. They'd taken that on board as well, and they were involved with it as well. And it was just such a privilege to me to spend those 2 months and see how a missionary family worked. And that was a model for me as well. And to see
Mm.
Robert's commitment. And not just that, there was also, there is another fellow called Rod Jones. And he's a missionary that
Mm.
lives he serves about 10 kilometers away from where our own church is. And he's been a real encouragement to me in so many ways as well, as a counselor. Also, Robert
Mm.
as a counselor when I've needed some advice, so often. Even now, I'd phone him up on occasions. But Rod being a bit closer now as well, and Robert having gone home, whenever I've needed advice about theological issues, church issues, or other things, he's a real wise counselor. So that's really good to
Mm.
have as well. To have missionaries that you can speak to that have been there before, done it before,
Mm.
and just be willing to realize I haven't got all the answers. But the great thing about the body of Christ is that there are other people that can give you good advice. So I really do appreciate that with Rod
Mm.
Jones as well. He's been a real help to me over so many years. And not just that, so many Christians have given me encouragement. The local Christians, older Christians
Mm.
gave me encouragement when I first came here. and seeing people come to Christ and going on and growing and getting involved in mission themselves locally, I would say that's been the greatest encouragement of all. Seeing God's work prosper and being established. It's been brilliant.
That's super. Thank you, Alec. Could you maybe share, we've kind of heard about how you've made it all the way to Italy. Can you maybe share just a bit for those that don't know you about what kind of mission you've done over the time?
Well, this is something that's really interesting as well, because when I was in Britain, my main emphasis was children's work. We had Sunday schools, midweek meetings, missions in different housing estates. And I was convinced that I was going to spend the majority of my time doing children's work. So I prepared for that. I prepared for it in every way possible, and took loads of material with me to Italy to do children's work, and did start off doing children's work, and it went really well. But shortly afterwards, we had a tent campaign, and some people were converted. And Rod said something really interesting. He said, we shouldn't use children as a means to reach parents. They shouldn't be manipulated like that. We should reach parents so that then we could see their whole family coming to Christ. Now, I don't want to diminish the value of children's work. Absolutely. We should be wanting to reach children because we love children, but not to manipulate them to get to the adults. That's not Christian at all, is it? So I was just at that time, we were doing a Bible study together, and that came out. And just at the start of this tent mission, some people got converted, and they brought their kids along. And I thought, it wouldn't be a wise thing to do to abandon the work with these adults to work with kids. It would be better to work with the parents that would bring their own kids. So it was just a change, I would say, in mentality for me, of wanting to work with these families now. And so then what happened was more and more people got converted. So a church was started. That was in 1997. And we would be involved in open air preaching, tent campaigns, discipling, cleaning. At the start, I was the church cleaner, the treasurer, the musician, the preacher, and just about everything, And I would consider myself a bit of a jack of all trades and master of none, and I haven't got any problem with that, because I think in some ways a church planter needs to be a jack of all trades, because they need to do quite a lot of different things, and then encourage other people that are masters of what they do to come and do that. People that are really good Bible teachers, let's invite them to do that, and I do what God has given me to do according to the gifting that He's given to me. So that then I became an elder of the church, and the church moved on and grew, which meant we were evangelizing more families, discipling more families. And the great thing about the Italian culture, especially the Neapolitan culture, is this: that it's very family orientated. So when one member of the family gets converted, you'll be invited to meet all the rest of the family. So then you suddenly got a new mission field to evangelize, which takes up a lot of time, obviously, which is right. That's what we want to be spending our time involved with. So it's just been a gradual development of those first seeds of the work that were planted back in 1997.
I think that, it's really great to just take in the whole story, actually, Alec, and just right from the start of the slightly angsty young man who wouldn't have dreamed of the life that you now live, and to now when the Lord has given you this responsibility serving His church in Naples, and so a really encouraging conversation. If you look back on all of that time, and this is a big question, and it's probably not one you can answer in full, but what would one or two of the things be that have been almost lifelong learnings for you that the Lord has taught you over time? You've sort of touched on a couple of them there, but things. What would your big themes be looking back?
One of the most important lessons is this: that there is salvation in the great number of counselors. I've learned this lesson early on, because one time we were wanting to evangelize a certain area, and I had the whole thing planned, what we should do, how we should do it. And I presented this to the other leaders, and there was this Neapolitan leader. He says, no, we should do it like this. And I thought, man, I've been thinking about this for weeks. I'm planning it. And, I thought, how can you just turn around and say that? And then I thought to myself, hold on a minute. There's salvation, a great number of counselors. Let's listen to him and let's do it his way. And it worked. It might well have worked better how I wanted it. But if we did that, that would have caused conflict. I'd have had to convince him he was wrong and I was right. Then he wouldn't have felt really part of that work because I was going against what he wanted. And the whole idea, I think, of mission is to be serving the people, not telling them what to do. So that just helped me to realize it's not so important that things get done my way. The most important thing is to do things that honor God, even in ways that I might not be 100% in agreement with. But in that way, much more people will have ownership of the thing. So I really feel ownership is so important. And as missionaries, we shouldn't see ourselves as directors and the fountain of knowledge, but to realize we've got people that we're working alongside here, and they've been given gifts, so we need to try and embrace them all. And that would lead me into the second part of that, the same answer, I suppose, is to realize that even if we do a lot of planning and a lot of preparation, to be willing and open for God to do things in a different way than we'd imagined. And I would say that has happened to me on so many occasions. And as the Bible says, that the horse is prepared for the battle, but the victory belongs to God. So we should prepare, but the Lord might just guide it in a completely different way. And that preparation is honoring to God. And when things are done in a different way to how we think they might be done, at the end of the day, we realize it's God's work. Because it was all done according to how I wanted it, I would think, man, I was so good at planning that, and give myself a pat on the back. Whereas when it's other people, when I want to give glory to other people as well. And when it's God doing it, we want to give all the glory to God. So it's just so much better to get more people involved, more people enjoying it, more people getting ownership, and God being glorified, rather than the missionary showing up, oh, he's got all the answers, so we need to do what he says. And I think that is really counterproductive.
Yeah, I think those are really good learnings, Alec, and it's been lovely to just sit with you and or at least sit with you online and just hear these stories of how the Lord has worked and the things that He has taught you over time. And I know there'll be an encouragement to those who listen. So thank you for your time today. We really appreciate having you on the Same Commission podcast.
Thank you.
That's great. Before we finish up, Alec, can we ask finally what we can pray for you and your mission today before we say goodbye to you?
You can. And I'll be so happy and grateful if you would pray with us. And I've got a few subjects. The first one is my family, obviously, because that's close to my heart. Our first boy, Josiah, he loves the Lord and serves the Lord in so many ways, really committed to Christ. He did a 3-year degree in theology, and he would love to be more involved in the work of the Lord. He's got a beautiful Christian wife as well, who's a great help to him. So we're really grateful to them and pray for them, that God would really help them more and more in mission. My second son, Joseph, he's gone to live on the other side of it in a place called Foggia. And again, he's really committed to the Lord and to local mission. Although it's obviously difficult for him being away from home. And it's difficult for us as well, having our son so far away from us. Our third daughter, Joy, our first daughter, but our third child, Joy, we would pray for her that the Lord would speak to her heart and she would really surrender to Him. She's a lovely girl, but we don't think she's made a commitment to Christ yet. Josiah's 26, Joseph's 25, and Joy is 16. blessed as a family. We've got my mother-in-law living with us now because my sister-in-law died last year, who was looking after my mother-in-law. Now she's come to stay with us. She's actually blind, or almost blind, and she's 82 years old, so she needs constant care and attention. So you can imagine she's living with us now, so it's changed our lives, and we're a lot less free, especially Patricia. So a lot less free to do what she was doing, and I think it also causes an emotional strain seeing someone that's not well, or someone that you love at home. So I would ask you to pray for Patricia, that the Lord would help her and her work in the prison as well, and that the Lord would give us opportunities to expand that work. And we also got a building project because we're on our way to building a multi-purpose Christian centre here in Pottsworthy that has got three main aims. Its first aim is to be a blessing to the community because we live in a poor, deprived community where there's organised crime, drug addiction, prostitution, all of the problems of poor local housing estates. And this centre is right in the middle. So we want to be serving that community, doing things for kids, young children, teenagers, young people, adults, right up until pension age. So it wants to be a real bridge into the community to show Christ's love in practical ways. It should also be a reference point for the regional church because there are loads of little churches around us that are struggling, and there's nowhere for us to really meet to have conferences and spend the day together. So it's planned with that in mind as well. But it also should be a place of learning and of discipleship and growth and a mission center. And thirdly, it should be a place of worship for our own church because we've been without our own place of worship for 8 years now, and it's been really frustrating. And so we're really ready for our own place so we can meet together on a regular basis and do all the things that we want to do that we haven't been able to do for so many years. So those would be some subjects for prayer.
Thanks, Alec, and I know people will be praying as they listen. So that'll be good to pray along with you and the church in Pottsworthy. So thank you for sharing those.
So, Alec, before we finish, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I would. I want to say how grateful I am to the Lord to being a mission partner with Echoes International. Right from the very start, I felt Echoes to be an encouragement, a help, always available for any sort of advice or needs that I would have, and channeling funds, which has been so helpful without taking any funds away, which many mission agencies do. And not just that, but also being really generous to us as a family. And without Echoes International, it would be very unlikely that we would still be involved in mission just now because of all of the help that Echoes have given. So I thank God for Echoes, not just for their help and support, but also that they're there to help, but they're not getting in the way and telling us what to do, which many other mission agencies do. So I think God has used Echoes in a special way in our mission and in so many other areas throughout the world. I'd also like to say just how grateful I am, and we are as a family, of having so many of you that have been praying for us over so many years, for your encouragement, support, emails and letters and phone calls and visits. That has been such a valuable help to us, and we really do thank the Lord for you and for that, as well as for your generous giving, because you've been so generous to us that we've had enough for ourselves and to be able to help others as well. So I do, and as a family we do, and as a church we do really consider you to be partners in the work of the Lord. And I hope you really feel that you are partners, not just on the outskirts and involved every now and again, but really integral parts of mission through your prayers, communications, and giving. We really do thank the Lord for you. So the Lord bless you richly.
Thank you, Alec, and we appreciate partnership with you as well. I can speak for the whole team, and I should also speak to our listeners and say we haven't offered Alec any money for the last statement that he just made. But it's good to it's good to be able to partner with you, Alec, and with Patrizia and your and the brothers and sisters that gather with you now. So thank you for coming on the podcast today.